Hi and welcome to the table at Dice Cup in Nottingham. I'm Steve Rain.
I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And I'm Mark Windle.
And this video is talking about our recent trip to Essen. Mark and I went to Essen. Mark for the third time, myself for the first time, and Jonathan is enviously sat here when he plays some of the games we've got to play.
So they brought back a whole pile of games and I've been manically trying to play through as many as I can.
It was my first Essen. I thought it was great. There were 182,000 people there. I counted to 4 of those people because I went all 4 days. But that's, you know, if it evened out, that was about 40-odd thousand a day. But Saturday must have been close to 60,000. It was mental.
Rammed.
Yeah, it was about
insane.
8% up on last year. How was it compared to your 3 Essens, Mark?
Every day was busy. Even the first Thursday was pretty busy, and then it just continued busy and busy and busy. And the Sunday normally empties out about halfway through the day. We were there 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, it's still busy. It just didn't get quiet.
Mark promised me that on Sunday you can go around and get everything you want, have a demo of anything you want to do. It was a big lie. Yeah, it was so busy. But having said that, it was great. I think there was enough room to move around, and you're going to have that many people there. But despite the fact, I had a really good time. We had enough time to kind of go through every hall in detail twice, so we went through many hours.
We paced ourselves well as well. We like one hall on a day rather than trying to do loads, so we kind of really maximised our time.
So basically what we did when we were in Essen, we bought some games and played in the hotel afterwards, and as we were going up and down the aisles, whenever we saw, if we were walking for 20 minutes, if we saw a table that was empty, we just sat down. So we didn't really have an aim of demoing necessarily some games, and so in all we played 38 games, and in this video we're just going to talk about 10 of those that stood out for either one or all of us in some way or other. We were going to order these in a list from 10 to 1, but apart from number 1 we couldn't really get any sort of order. There was no kind of one game that stood out above the rest apart from our number 1, which Jonathan clearly agrees on, and that is
Gaia Project.
Gaia Project is the Terra Mystica re-themed Terra Mystica set in space. I generally don't like space games, but I love Terra Mystica. And they've changed the cult track to a tech track. So effectively you are upgrading different technologies in one place now, so it gives you more aim to go with the cult. And that one little addition, as well as some other minor tweaks, has just improved the game for me.
It's fantastic. I didn't think they could improve Terra Mystica. I mean, it has a couple of little issues, but not only have they fixed the little issues Terra Mystica had, they've added this. It just integrates so much better, doesn't it? The way the tech tracks all integrate with what used to be the favour tiles from Terra Mystica, the kind of bonus things you get as you go through the game, they all integrate into the tracks really well now.
It's like the shipping track and digging track in the old game is now 2 of the tech tracks, and you've now got 4 other tech tracks that are on top of that, and which used to be 4 cult tracks, but now they've got purpose, and they mean something. And actually, and for me, while I certainly think about the space theme, I actually think it attaches to the theme better, as opposed to I'm a dwarf, I can only live in brown area or whatever colour area. I kind of a planet that supports my life actually kind of makes more sense.
It's because they're all aliens.
All these dwarfs and fakirs and nomads and all these people breathe oxygen and live in the world. Why can't they just settle on some slightly different terrain?
Should everybody go on grass?
But yeah, we've played that. Oh God, I've played it 4 times since Mark got it. You've played it 5 times, I think. Different races, and I just like the fact that all these races are. They've got different powers. It's not like the base game is just switched over and the races have similar powers. They're completely different, and I'm just enjoying kind of testing them out, really.
Yeah, there's so many races, and they're all different from the original races from Terra Mystica, and all different from each other. I mean, again, lots of variability with the different factions. Each time you pick one up, it's like, oh my goodness, what does this do? And it seems to work very differently from all the others.
I think the factions are more different than Terra Mystica.
Yeah.
I think, well, Terra Mystica, I just think they've even like for particular factions gained additional components just for them, which is something got in Terra Mystica. It was all very just different, and it much more interesting to find. I mean, even just like the major buildings on their own are just completely different. Like one race starts with at the start. I mean,
it starts with a stronghold.
What's that?
I like that race. That's my favourite so far. But yeah, Gaia Project is a game we're going to be playing many times over the next few months, and I'm just going to play it 14 times. So I've played each race once, and then I'm going to start thinking about which ones I want to try practicing a bit more.
It was easily the best game though. From all the Essen games that we played, it was like head and shoulders above the rest. It was just superb.
But that does leave us with 9 other games that Mark and I felt that deserves on the list, and Jonathan has played half of them. One of those games that just looks nice on the table is a game called Photosynthesis. And Photosynthesis has been hyped up, it just looks different, and that theme is unique. And basically in Photosynthesis you're growing trees at different heights, and the higher your tree the more light it gets you, and the sun's moving around the board, but if your tree's in the shadow of a different tree you don't get any light, and effectively you're trying to grow the biggest trees you can in the centre of the forest to harvest as many points as you can.
It's a fairly simple sort of Euro-stroke area control game essentially, but the mechanisms all make sense. It's just so intuitive. The sun's shining from this direction, so if there's a big tree in front of you, well, you're not going to get any light then, so you don't get the light points to spend, which lets you get more seeds and grow your trees, etc. It just makes sense. If you don't get enough light, you're not going to grow. And the way the sun keeps moving around means you've got to keep adjusting your strategy, and that just works so well.
You can't just, oh, that's the best spot, it will always get me light. No, it won't. It will only get you light half the time when the sun's on your side of the board.
It's just, I can't think of any other game like it. And that's, I mean, it's going to sell great because on the table it looks beautiful. Everybody gets their own type of tree. It's not like everybody has put a little ring on the bottom or something. They've
picked all autumn colours as well. You've got the greens and the browns and the oranges and stuff, and it just looks nice on the table.
The race to the middle if you really want to go for that middle spot, and then there's action like spending your action points and biding your time. That's just, I've never played anything like it, and that's always going to be a big sell.
You're trying to harvest the trees ultimately. When they get really big, you harvest them for points, but then that entire massive tree disappears from the board. There's this space, and all the trees around it suddenly rush to try and fill the space, which is very similar to how a forest ecosystem would work, if you like. It's very well done.
You've got to be careful about going for that space if it's still surrounded by all these big trees. Because it's so cost inefficient to try and grow something there because it will never gain you any light back.
So
you've got to be careful. I love it, and I don't think necessarily going for the centre square is always going to be the best strategy.
I agree.
So another game we played was a small card game that in terms of popularity was probably the most popular game we had, because not only did 2 of us buy Gaia Project, 2 of us bought this game as well. And the game is, I'm going to say, every time I say it to Jonathan, I say R. And Jonathan thinks I'm talking about the letter R. No, what I mean is R! And in R, it's a small little card game, and effectively the animals are risen against the humans, and there's the garden animals and the house animals, and there's I can't remember the other pile as such, but there's basically 3 different piles, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to construct a bomb, and on your turn you either steal a card of someone else that they've got face down, and you put it face up in front of you, so that becomes yours for the rest of the game, or you take a card off the pile. If you take a card off the pile, you look at it, and either put it face down in front of yourself, which could be stolen, or you offer it to someone else and say, Jonathan, would you like this card? And he will either say yes or no. If he says no, I have it face up in front of me. If he says yes, he has it face up in front of him. And once it's face up, it can't be stolen. So you've got to be really careful offering someone a bomb. Offering someone a bomb might be the best way to get it face up in front of you if you think they're going to say no. And the reason to say no is that if it's not a bomb part, it's got positive and negative points on it. And you might, oh, -5 points. Here, Mark, do you want this? And if he says yes, you all have a great little laugh that he's just said yes to taking -5 points, because if the bomb's not constructed, it's most points wins. It's just quite a nice little filler. We actually went back on the second day after, didn't we, and played it again. Yeah.
I like the, I don't know what they're called, the ones that work against the spies, which I think, if there's 3 piles, one has 2, the other 2 have 1. If you have a single one, or 3 of them, then you can't win. But if you have a pair, or 4, or 2 pairs, they combat each other, so like you might the cat and the dog fight, which doesn't prevent you as the hamster or whatever to do your evil deeds. And I think, because you end up, sometimes you've got one, and you want somebody to offer you one, you're thinking of a one, because they don't know that I've got on my hidden card face down another one of these spies. And
and because the spies, obviously the cat and the dog are on the human side, they're kind of traitors to the animal kingdom. But if you have a cat and a dog, they fight each other, and you're fine, you can still win. Just quite a nice little quirk to it, I suppose. You need to try that. It's quite a quick game. It takes about 5 minutes or so.
Sounds very clever.
Yeah. Another game was a heavy game that Mark bought. It's called Iberian Rails. I'm going to let Mark talk to you about that one.
Oh, good. I guess Iberian Rails is sort of described as a light train game or 18xx game. So it's a game where there are 6 companies, like 6 railroad companies, but you don't own any company, you just own shares in the company. So if you have the majority of the shares, you then control the company, which then allows you to spend the company's money to then move out on the board, set up hotels, make money for the company, and then you kind of get get money back from that into your own personal pile, which is what you want to win the game. So having loads of money in a company is no good to you unless it's coming your way by doing auctions and stuff going around the board.
And to get more money in the company, it's quite nice. You've got two actions then in turn. You can spend, when it's your turn, when it's one company's turn, whoever's got the most shares in that company does the action. And they can either use the money in the company to build out the rails, or they can say, this company's got no money, I'm going to sell off another share. And one of the remaining company shares gets sold off. Now you can buy it yourself with your own money and put money back into the company, and then you've got another share. Or you can let someone else kind of waste their money putting money into the company you control. You've got to be careful, because if they take too many shares, they control the company and they're going to start building the track the way you don't want them to build it, and that's quite nice.
Some train games like this can have the issue where if you don't have enough shares in any company, you don't control anything, and you sit there while everyone else does the fun things of moving the trains around the board, and you can't really do anything.
There's a mafia virtuoso or something.
Yeah.
So basically,
there's roles in this game essentially that you can choose a role that gives you your own special ability for that round.
And you basically be the construction work, and you can build track cheaper. So whenever it's your turn to pick one of your companies to move, you build your track cheaper. You've got the guy who takes 50% of the cut when someone buys a share off you, or there's the mafia virtuoso, which is either any share in a company, you can use his power to take control of the company for one turn. You've got to
bribe him.
You've got to bribe him, but you can. So if that is the case, then I understand that they've kind of fixed it with this couple of the abilities.
It does have the brutalness of that. It is still a light train game, but as long as you go in knowing that, I think you have to just make sure you try to get a share early on. It can happen.
If you do play this game, you need to buy a share in the first round, even if it's really heavily priced. If you have the first round with no shares, you're really struggling to have any impact on the game unless you get the mafia guy. So you need control of a company. So that was probably a mistake that one or two of our players did, I think.
Okay.
So another game, probably the game that might have been played the most in this cafe since we got back, is a game called Azul. And Azul, Jonathan's laughing at this because I don't think he's as enamoured with it as the rest
Everyone's
of us.
raving about it, and I played it, and I was like, it's okay. I think the issue for me is it's an abstract game, really.
Yeah,
there's some kind of theme. Was it the King of Portugal or something?
I even tried to impart theme on
bathroom
this.
tiles.
So the King of Portugal looks at the King of Spain's bathroom and says, "That's brilliant. I want one too," and you have to tile his bathroom. Effectively, that's what it is. But I think it looks like quite a nice game. And
it does look nice on the table.
Decisions are very easy. On your turn, you take all of one colour gem from any one pile, and you try and tile it into the bathroom. But you're trying to gain points by putting tiles adjacent to each other and completing rows and completing columns and completing five of a kind, and not taking excess tiles which lose you points.
You're trying to fill out this pattern, aren't you? You're going to fix pattern, you've got to put them in the right place. Yeah. It's tricky to work out where to best put them, I think.
Yeah. I think it's been, apart from myself maybe, quite well received since...
It has been very well received.
I mean, you still gave it a 7, so you didn't
detest
it. It's just not your...
But they were all saying, oh, you've got to try Azul, it's amazing.
Dean played it 4 times in a row.
I know, it has amazed me how much it's been played, actually. I think more than any other game that you brought back, that's been the one that's got the most play.
I saw a review of it, and I thought, as we were passing on the first day or something, I'll buy Azul. And we came in the next day, and it was #1 on the hotness list in Essen.
Yeah.
So that's what people in buzz at Essen was, that this is a great game. And so we went and played it that night, and me and Mark, I think, agreed that it was...
I like the hate drafting.
Yeah, you can try and work out near the end like who's going to get done in and try and make sure it's not you, or try and force it on someone else, that sort of thing.
We were playing the other night, and you can see we're getting close to the end. Steve starts thinking furiously, and he's trying to look at my board, Mark's board. I'm like, no, don't look at my board, because I know he's going to hate draft.
But as I said, I'm inevitably going to take the decision you don't think I'll take and completely screw you around, which is then probably when he did.
He did, yes. He did. But yeah, so if you haven't played it, it's like a 30-minute game. I'll check it out. I'll give it a go. So another game that was kind of hyped before the start and Rob bought on the first day is Bunny Kingdom. We played 2 games of this. We played the rules wrong in the first game where I scored 600 points or something. So slight error there. I talked to someone else, I got 600 and they went, how the hell did you do that? And we explained and we'd done it wrong. And we had another game of it. You played it correctly. The Bunny Kingdom is a bit like Chinatown, where you kind of you're drafting locations to put your bunnies out on the board. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get connected sets of bunnies and castles and resources, and in any sort of connected set, you multiply the number of spies in your castle by the number of resources you have, and you get that many points. But there's loads of other cards that go around, and so you can draft not to try and get a massive empire on the board, but to draft to get lots of endgame scoring, or draft to get lots of camps that you can do things. I think it was a pretty nice game.
Yeah, I think it's fairly easy to pick up, and it's fairly self-explanatory as it starts going through. You start with a few bunnies, and there's more and more and more, and there's obviously always the bit of don't hope that card comes round, and then you see somebody take that they play the card that you've been waiting for, and you cry, and then there's. Yeah, it just all. I think there's all stuff like the camps you put down. This is temporarily, but they might get taken if somebody actually gets that card, which they might not, because there's a good chunk of the deck that isn't played. So you don't play with every space. So you might get away with it, and that one camp that you put there on turn 1 might score you loads of points, or it might immediately get removed off the board and you've just wasted the pick.
Despite the bizarre thing that they made on top of it, it does look like a very abstract game. Does that come across when you play it?
It is, but I think the theme, just little bunnies collecting carrots and stuff. If it was meeples collecting resource cubes, it wouldn't be as buzzed as it was. I think you could stick any theme on this, and they've picked a good one, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think you should stick themes on abstract games like
Happy
that.
Pigs.
Yeah, it's kind of like Happy Pigs. It's a much more serious game than it looks when you first look at it.
Yeah, I think it's drafting done well. The distribution of the cards in the deck and the distribution of the cards that affect the board and affect your hand and affect the cities and stuff like that mean that the draft is by far where the skill comes in, and it's not harsh. You can hate draft, but generally you pick up 10 cards on your turn, you're going to get something you want. And next to something you've already got out there.
And there's a lot of cards going around at the end of the day. You're taking 2, and so you know you're going to see quite a lot coming around. It's just sometimes you have to take the risk on. I'm going to have to start collecting somewhere else because I'm not going to guarantee to get the card I want.
Knocking me in already, you need to give that a go. I think we need to.
Yeah, no, I'd like to try it.
Another game on this. I've done this from memory so far. Another game on this is Dixie done well, as Rob said, and that is Muse. And Muse is kind of Team Dixie. Technically, it's kind of like slightly like Codenames. You basically get 1 Dixit card and 1 restriction, but you've been given this by the opposite team. They can see everything, and they give you 1 of the 6 cards that are going to be in play and 1 restriction. So it might be like colours of the rainbow, or make a noise without using words, or make a sound effect, or name a non-fictional movie, or something like that that relates to the card you've got. So you look at that. Oh, well, there's some vague reddish tones in this. I'm going to say red for colours of the rainbow, and you pass that card back, and then the opposite team shuffle them in, lays all 6 cards out, and the rest of your team have got to guess which one was your card at the start. And it's great. I had a go at the day. I remember seeing a review of it. I couldn't remember exactly how it played, so I sat down, played 1 game, and thought, yeah, this is definitely a cafe game, so I bought it.
Agreed. It's really fun. It's really quick. It is much better than Dixit. There's almost some stupidity in there as well, because you know that as your team, you're given 2 tricky cards. You're just thinking, which one of these is going to screw over him more or make them look more like an idiot? And it just, there's more laughs in it than Dixit, but it's still a lot of thinking going on as well with the cards and how to describe your card.
Have you played it yet?
I've not. I played Dixit a lot though, and it's a lot of people like Dixit. So if it's that much better, it's going to do really well. But I'm just wondering if
I think it's better because we're from a competitive point of view. I think.
Yeah. The thing about Dixit that most people like is that you're trying to connect with someone else playing. It's like if you can get on their wavelength, then you can score really well. But you don't want to connect with everyone.
You're trying to connect to your team.
It's different feeling, isn't it? Yeah. I suppose more like Codenames.
But you can do people in by giving them a disconnect. You can pick which cards the other team have to do. There is a teeny bit of downtime when they're picking and they're doing it, and you've given them their stuff. You are sat there for a few minutes until they've kind of guessed or failed to guess correctly. But otherwise, it doesn't take that long. You play 5 points, first to 5 wins, and then you can sort of end.
Okay.
Again, we can have a go at that later as well. Another game on the list is a game that came out earlier this year in 3 boxes, and there was another 3 released at Essen.
What could have you
gave it away?
That's excellent. If you didn't work that out, and we've played 2 of them since we've got back. I bought 3 of them, and we've played 2 of them. One's for my brother and his girlfriend, and one's just for the 3 of us so far. And they've actually started to come with difficulty ratings now.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, I think, because some of them are definitely feel harder than others.
So Exit won Game of the Year last year, deservedly so. I think it's brilliant. That series of games is brilliant. I just hope they keep coming out with unique ideas. And even though 1 or 2 bits kind of felt a teeny bit similar to other things they've done, there was still enough uniqueness there, and you think, oh wow, that's clever.
Yeah, it feels different enough. And I'm really surprised. You think there are only so many sort of ways of getting clues for numbers and letters and things, but actually they've been really inventive with it. They've done really well, I think, in these, the most recent to 3.
I think that's probably why Exit might be stronger than Unlock in the long run, is they can be more innovative with their clues.
I suppose because you can keep manipulating, destroying, cutting, what have you.
There was a great one in the first one we did with the folding bits and stuff. But
I've been really impressed. Like when we get to the end of it, we always look back and go, right, which were the best puzzles? If you like.
Oh yeah.
And there've always been at least 2 in each of the ones we've done that were like, oh, that was amazing. I really wasn't expecting that.
And it's always the puzzle like one person in your team gets, and you're like, I'd have never got that. Thank God Mark was there. Thank God Jonathan was there.
Yeah.
Such a clever clue, and he went, oh, what if we do this? And they're like, oh wow, yeah, it works. Exit's one of my favourite games of the year, and the fact that they've had more out, and it looks like the popularity of it is continuing to grow, so they're going to keep getting more out. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm also looking forward. Unlock would have been on this list had we got a copy. We went around on the first day. I went around to try and get an English copy, and they were sold out.
They're all German.
Yeah.
All German.
And sadly, it's language dependent, most of these games. So but yeah, that's it. So we played a game that was currently on Kickstarter at the moment. We walked around. It was one of these games where we didn't know anything about it. It was just an empty table. So, oh, this looks like it had little, not cubes, but little discs, and so, oh, that looks like theme, lack of theme. So I thought I'd sit down, and everyone else joined us. And it's a game called Overbooked. And the theme behind this is probably not a nice theme necessarily, but it was the guy who was dragged off the airplane because there was too many people booked on it, and there was a viral video of it. And they've made a game on this. So effectively, you get these seating cards out, and you can take the first one for free, or later ones that cost you like food tokens and stuff, and food tokens worth points. And when you take that card, it has a distribution of different type of people and where they should sit on your plane. So you take the card and you sit those people in this plane in the order you set it, in the order on the card, but you can rotate anywhere around. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get friends sat next to their friends. So all the yellow ones and blue ones and green ones need to sit next to each other. You're trying to sit lovers together. So if you sit 2 red lovers as a pair, you get some points at the end. But if you sit them by themselves or in a threesome, they don't like being in a threesome, you get nothing. And kids have got to be sat away from other kids, so these little white ones. So once you've got a white one down, they won't score any points if they're sat next to another kid, and you've also got to completely surround them with adults. Maybe not the adults.
It's just like real life.
But you'll see as the game kind of progresses on, it'll be harder and harder to fit these cards in your plane, and eventually you're going to have to take a card that kind of goes over other discs you've already put out. And therein you then have to kick off the existing passengers off your plane into like a penalty zone.
Yeah.
And you lose points to them, and the person who kicks off the most loses extra points as well.
Yeah, it was a very small game found at the very back of the furthest hall, and they just went, oh, would you like to give it a try? I was like, yeah, go on, as we were quite happy to. Yeah, it was really fun, as in, the theme just worked perfectly. It's like, oh, this makes sense straight away. And I do love the whole food token bit, where you've got 4 cards to choose from. So the first one's free, second one 1, 2 and 3 you have to pay. And then you're just like with food going, you can't waste these food tokens. You know that you think that set's bad now. Give it another 3 or 4 times around, they're going to be a lot worse
when
for
your plane is
so you kind of full. Yeah, so you really don't. You're like, do I really want to spend a food token now? So it's something like, I made the mistake of like, I'll just get that one. I need that one. It's much better.
We ran out of food tokens.
Yeah,
Rob just
and that was terrible.
I've got loads of space. I can always take the first one. You took the first one with our food tokens on it. So you obviously get them back once they've been placed on there. And we're like, oh, we can't. We've got 1 left. I don't want to take either of these 2 and stuff like that. And then we had to start kicking people off our plane. So Rob won by quite a mile, but he played it well. It was good.
Yeah, nice. Small, quick game, easy to teach and easy to explain, but there's a lot. The set and fitting thing puzzles, but like the whole. So about other games, the sort of Tetris thing of trying to fill stuff into a block so it's all filled nice and neat and square. It's always fun doing that.
And trying to think about the scoring patterns as well, not just fitting them in, but trying to score points as well. Yeah. So yeah, that was really good. It's on Kickstarter at the moment. I think one of our friends has backed it, so you will get to play it at some point.
But it presumably won't be released until next year now.
No, it'll be a while before it comes out. It was. Okay. I don't know how finalised the copy was. I imagine you could spruce it up a bit, but otherwise, yeah, it was fun. The little discs were quite small, so I'd probably like a slightly bigger version of it.
Yeah, I'm worried about losing them.
Yeah. But yeah, so...
Any more?
We've got one more, and we've played it a few times in the cafe. It's a dice rolling game. It's called Harvest Dice.
Oh yeah.
Harvest Dice is a little dice drafting game where you've got different types of vegetables you're trying to put in your vegetable patch, effectively. And on your turn, you take a red dice, so it would be a tomato, or a green dice would be a lettuce, and so on. You try and fit in your vegetable patch based on the number you've got. So if you take a 5, you have to put them in the column with a 5 at the top of it. And there's 9 dice, and there's 9 dice, so you draft until there's 1 dice left, and that dice makes that vegetable go up, because obviously there's less of that vegetable in the field, the price of that vegetable will go up.
Yep.
So it's really nice, like I said in the review video I've got, if you just keep taking the same type of vegetable, that vegetable will never go up in price, and you'll score very few points with it. So not only do you have to take a lot, you have to get a lot of vegetables out, you need to get a lot of expensive vegetables out, and the expensive ones will be the ones that there are fewer dice of, effectively, because the dice
It's one of those games, I'm not a big fan of these light dice games, and when I looked at it I was like, oh, I can't see myself liking this, but Steve's like, no, come on, try it. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. It's really good, it's much better than I was expecting it to be, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that there's actually a lot more going on. You've got to think about a lot more than you'd expect. It looks like, oh, roll a few dice, but you really have to plan quite carefully about where you're going to put things. And you're right, you've got to think about not only what you're taking, but what you're leaving behind, because that's affecting the prices. If you leave 2 green dice and an orange dice, there's a good chance one of those green dice is going to be the last one, which makes the price of it go up. So maybe if you've got a lot of green, you don't want to take the other one because you want to let the price go up. The other thing I really like about it, though, is it's one of those where in terms of interaction between the players, there's no direct interaction, but you have to pay attention to what they're doing a lot. Because depending on which dice they're taking, if they're taking lots of green dice, then there's going to be fewer green dice for you to take. So you do have to pay attention to what everyone else is doing. So it's interaction in that way, not direct confrontation, but you really care what everyone's doing. In a 10-minute
game as well.
Yes, it's so quick. No, it's great.
There's definitely a little bit of confrontation because you can take dice to prevent people being able to take dice.
Yeah, I suppose it's hate drafting.
Yeah. You can feed the pig, so if you ever take a dice you can't fit in your grid, you just feed the pig. Feeding the pig gets you a bit of points, gives you a bit of an ability to change the dice a bit. Generally you don't want to do that, you want to get more vegetables out, but yeah, feeding the pig means I can't let Mark have this 5 green, I'm going to take it, feed the pig.
You don't feel devastated though.
Yeah.
Well, if you just couldn't play the dice, it'd be terrible because you've still got that other option. At least it helps you in the long run in some way. You can score points off it, decent points.
Anyway, so that is 10 of the games we played at Essen. Now, that is not by any means 10 of the best games at Essen. So we've since got Charterstone and Pandemic Legacy, which we are in the middle of. I say in the middle. We're touching the surface of starting these games, and they may end up being like some of the games we really like from this particular Essen. But of the ones we played, these are 10. Just maybe keep your eye out on or get a second opinion on if you think you'd like them to.
Just one question actually to ask you. Because people might wonder this, if you already own Terra Mystica, would you buy Gaia Project?
Yes.
Undoubtedly so.
Hands down, yes.
Okay. I would sell my copy of Terra Mystica to buy Gaia Project.
I can't see a reason to play Terra Mystica over Gaia Project anymore, I think.
So that was really the standout game, I think, wasn't it, for all of us? If you get nothing else and you like Terra Mystica, get Gaia Project.
Certainly as a standalone non-campaign game, because we just don't know enough about the other ones to say.
True.
You've also played Clans of Caledonia as well, haven't you? So that is comparable. I haven't played it, so would you like to talk about that one?
Yeah, see, me and Mark weren't that impressed, were we? It's good, don't get me wrong, and it does. A lot of the mechanisms are similar to Terra Mystica.
Like the scorings, you're actually expanding out like Terra Mystica, and you'll have scoring based on the rounds. But it was just a little bit.
It was underwhelming.
Did you play this after Gaia Project?
Yes.
Same day even. Which didn't help.
It's good, but it just.
It's like people said that the abilities of the races were hugely different, and they are, but they're not half as interesting as the differences on Gaia Project. They're just like, I can now sell. For me, it was like, I'm really good at beer, so I can be good at selling beer, and I can do stuff to sell beer better. But the ones in Gaia Project are zany.
Yes.
Which makes it more interesting.
The big difference really in Clans of Caledonia is the market board, because when you're buying and selling goods, which you can do quite a bit in the game, it makes the price go up and down. So if you're buying the goods, then because there's now a shortage of goods, the price goes up. So you kind of want to buy them until it goes up and then you can sell them. So there's potentially strategies for manipulating the price there that wouldn't exist in something like Terra Mystica. But I think the theme didn't help either. It was a lot of farming at the end of the day.
I think once we need to play a second time to confirm.
I would like to play it again.
I'd still like to play it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's certainly interesting. But yeah, it doesn't compare to Gaia Project.
Anyway, so that's been our Essen game video. If you've played a game at Essen that we didn't play or didn't mention on our list, pop it in the comments down below. I've been Steve Rain.
I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And I've been Mark Withell.
We've been a table at Dice Club in Nottingham. Thanks for watching.
Bye bye.